Daredevil Born Again, the finale. Let's break this down. Let's recap.
Look at that. That was a sight to see.
So cool. I
Awesome.
love Frank Castle. He's one of my favorite characters. So guys, should we break this down by plot point? How should we go about this? You just want to talk in general about it? I can kind of broadly surmise
Just start
the story.
through it, Ken, and
Yeah, pretty broad.
We got
Yeah.
Kingpin. He's making a crime state sort of building, I guess, some sort of huge facility where crime is legal. Some sort of loophole in the system. I don't claim to understand that, but he's trying to fix the city with Vanessa.
Well, when all of your cronies there are on your side, I mean, how can you not?
He's got
just
the
have that
corrupt
state?
Yeah.
Punisher policeman. Did any of you guys claim to understand what he was trying to accomplish there? Some sort of
Who?
Kingpin, like this crime state.
Oh yeah, so he keeps on asking to develop. Remember, he wants to develop
Yeah,
this
yeah.
harbor. Remember, they went there in an earlier episode, and he was like, "This could be a center for art and entertainment." But I think he wants it to be its own little like city state, that harbor where he can pretty much own and run it as if he's the. I don't think he cares about being mayor of New York proper. With all these rules and the vice mayor always being on his back, I think he wants to run his own little city state. So that's what he's trying to get created right now.
Did you catch the one in the one episode where maybe the second to the last episode where they had found the paperwork where that area is tax exempt or something? It's like its own.
Because Foggy was doing some sort of
that was the whole
lawsuit
thing
on
with
it.
Foggy.
Yeah.
And so because of that, he can now launder not millions but billions of dollars through that area. So
Nobody can stop him.
And then he weaponized the police force, guys. I mean it's Mayor Kingpin. He knew what he was doing the whole time. I mean, the guy's brilliant.
They got the police
And there's a
chief.
lot of people. I can tell you from my side, I was watching going, oh man, you can almost, if you were a citizen, boy, you could buy in. I think, Fisk, amazing character. That is just so well written.
We need to stop these vigilantes and these mass murderers, so we need the police to be
a little bit rougher.
A little bit rougher. No, but I love. He's like, no body cams, nothing. That was kind of funny. He kills the police commissioner, Gallo, right? That crushes his skull. What the heck? That was a little gory, violent.
What was crazy to me is like the lady that was working with him actually was, loyal to him.
Yeah.
I think she was scared. I think she was self-preservation.
Definitely, but I was
scared.
just like,
she's scared.
He's asking her in the hallway, like, "Hey, will you stand up with me?" She doesn't know if there's a camera in the hallway, so she's like, "You know what? This guy's dead. I know it. I'm saving myself." Because you saw her crying after.
Yeah, definitely.
After she went and told Fisk.
Yeah, that's an interesting plot point. Even what's his name? What's the guy? The son of the famous actor, right? Gandolfini or whatever.
James Gandolfini.
Yeah, Kingpin's little right-hand man. Even him, he was like going to the council and was like, you're going to do this, basically, allowing these crimes to be legal, I guess. I don't even know.
He used some blackmail against them, apparently.
Some sort of blackmail, right? So, man, I was thinking they were playing up that character for him to take the fall for Kingpin or something, but they didn't go down that route, which was interesting. And even the fact that all those cops were just watching Kingpin kill the commissioner, and just allowing it to happen, I just thought that was crazy. Just the fear, We get Matt's in the hospital still. His girlfriend leaves, and Kingpin's like, what did he say? He's like, oh, the brave lawyer succumbed to his wounds, didn't he? He's just talking to the guy, and then the guy's like, "Oh yes, he did," and then he just leaves the room. You're like, man, that's a cool way of saying just go kill that guy for me,
Yeah.
But of course, Matt can hear everything, so Matt gets out of the room before you get the syringe of death from his Kingpin's right hand man guy. But Punisher saves the day here, meets Matt in his apartment, which I
Dude.
was like confused at first. I was like, how did he know to come get him? Which they explained Karen called the Punisher, called Frank to come help Matt. That was a cool little callback because, you know, Karen's in the Punisher show, which is cool because the guy who's show running this, he made the Punisher show. So he understands that connection. So I love the little tiny connections to the old show for sure. Guys, how'd you feel about that? Just Punisher showing up, crazy.
Even talking about connections to the old show, they mentioned Agent Nadim
Yes,
in season 3.
yes, big character.
Which was that's some and then they mentioned why Fisk is out. That was the biggest thing I had was why is Wilson Fisk out? Because in season 3 they show
gets
that
arrested.
Dex
Yeah.
killed Nadim on his orders. That's how they arrest
Yeah.
him, right? And then they show that it's because the FBI was so corrupt. They said this really brief in passing, I think, at the start of the episode, when Vanessa visited Dex when he was in a psychiatric hospital. And she said something like, yeah, the FBI was, what was it? It was like, because they were so corrupt that it didn't stick, and that's why Fisk got acquitted. So that's kind of sad rewatching season 3 at the end when Matt's like, I got you, you know, Nadim gave his life to get you in this corner and it didn't stick.
Man.
Pretty frustrating. I mean, this is the second time now they've cornered him legally and he's gotten off on something. So I think Matt's got to explore the other option.
Murder? Oh, man. What happens next here? We got, oh, man, that scene in the apartment with Punisher and Matt, and Punisher's just killing them, and Matt's like, stop, what are you doing? Oh, man. Dad, how'd you feel about that scene? Did you like seeing Frank back? Full on Frank Castle.
I think Billy Russo said it best. Oh, Frankie, I love watching you work. Oh man, it's that is awesome. You got Daredevil pulling punches, his typical, trying not to kill him, and Frank doing his thing and just punishing. It was awesome. What a scene. Loved it.
Yeah. Very close.
That's adrenaline right there, right?
Yeah,
just like,
They kind of figure out who's the guy who's been using Punisher's moniker. I think it's Officer North, right? Because he's the one who's been using these Punisher bullets with the Punisher casings, and he's the one who killed White Tiger. I thought it was interesting. Matt won't do it. He won't kill him, even though he's so mad, you know. And you know, Punisher's about to kill him, but then the building explodes anyway. So all those guys are dead, basically killed by their own people, even really, you know. But Punisher and Matt jump out the window. Any thoughts about this whole scene, guys? Sam, how'd you feel about seeing Punisher back? Karen, the connection.
I was actually surprised because I had assumed that after we briefly saw him in, what was it, like episode 3 or something, that was all it was going to be. I just assumed, okay, like now we know Punisher's here and we're just gonna they'll somehow have it be like his special as a side quest. But I was actually really happy that he came back, and that fight scene was just amazing. I love when, you know, he's about to kill that guy who's pretending to be the Punisher, and Daredevil's like, no, it's not worth it. And then Frank shoots the other police officer in the head. And he's like, oh, how about that guy? Worth it?
Was he worth it? Yeah.
That part was hilarious. And,
I love...
There's a great line in that fight scene as well, where Frank says, why'd you take a bullet for him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for
Matt did, or, you know, why'd you take a bullet for Fisk? And Matt was like, that's a great question. He couldn't stop himself.
Yeah,
that's who he is.
Yeah, right.
But
man, crazy.
He was kicking himself. You could tell.
Yeah, man, insane. You know, you got all these people still after them. They go down into the Punisher lair, which I thought that was funny that he's got his own little lair with Karen.
Yeah.
Punisher says he's done with it. He's like, I'm done. You guys can do this on your own, you know. So Karen and Matt get patched up. They go and they're looking through their old files on the Foggy case, kind of piecing together how is this connected to Vanessa, and they figure out the whole city-state thing was connected to Foggy. Foggy had to go right? And his Foggy's client as well. So she's the one who hired Bullseye to kill Foggy, in the process making Matt pretty mad. I thought Foggy's death was gonna be faked, but I guess it's real. I don't know, because in the comics it's like Foggy fakes his death. So, but maybe they're going for it. They're going full for it. I don't know. How did this end here? Which I thought this was a little bit anticlimactic a little bit. Maybe they should have ended with the Punisher fight, maybe more so than just Matt like looking at the building and be like, "Oh, we can't do it. We need an army.
We are this city."
But I guess that's hinting towards season 2, right? They're gonna form the Defenders again. I hope. I hope. Who do you want to see there, guys? Defenders. You want to see some old cast back? Luke Cage.
You gotta. I think you got to bring them all back. You got Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and Jessica Jones, and then you got to get the other ones like Misty and Colleen.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think you get the old crew.
That would be so cool. I don't know. Any other thoughts, guys? Would you like to see the old crew, or do you think they're gonna just do White Tiger as what the female White Tiger? The cops that are on Matt Murdock's side is what it looks like from that bar scene. Matt gives that little powerful speech about this is a city without fear, basically, right?
Do you think Bullseye will team up with him?
Oh,
I noticed he was like missing throughout the last half. I was just curious. He's trying to kill Kingpin, so just saying.
Interesting, Wade.
I think Bullseye's gonna form his own little, or maybe not Bullseye, but I think Kingpin might try to form his own little team to take on against Daredevil's team. Because if the Defenders are there, I honestly think he might try to bring in a couple anti-heroes or other darker vigilantes to be a part of his own little squad he has.
One guy I talked to about this was like, the saddest thing is that Spider-Man can't be involved in this stuff for some like rights issues and stuff, because he is a New York City vigilante, and he's usually involved in all of this stuff. But man, that would be so cool to have, Spider-Man, Daredevil, Punisher. Man, that'd be so cool. So how did the whole thing kind of ended with that speech? They're showing that Josie's bar's shut down. They're showing Matt through the windows, talking. And we get a little tiny end credit scene of what? Wait, we didn't even talk about Punisher. He actually did go, and he actually went into the building. I thought that was so funny. Matt's like, we can't do this. We need an army, and Punisher just goes in by himself.
Frank
just walks right in by himself. So how'd you guys feel about that scene? He's obviously just taking him out, but it's too much for him. How'd you guys feel about that?
Yeah, he totally thought. I think he totally thought he was going there to 1v all of them and win. I think he underestimated how many people were there,
which is kind of sad.
I disagree. I think he said he was done. I think he went in there to take as many out as he could and go out in a blaze of glory. I think that's what he was thinking.
Which is why he was just taking those punches, like ready to die, kind of.
He did seem kind of depressed this whole season. So it seems like he's got no purpose, kind of feeling. He doesn't have Micro, his buddy.
That's the whole point to me for that end credit scene.
They
left him alive and imprisoned him. Oh, they
dumb.
woke him up, man.
Yeah, you think they woke him up? Yeah.
That's a great interpretation, really, because maybe he thinks I can't do much more. Look at how crazy the city is, even if I'm doing what I think is my most. But maybe if people see that they killed the Punisher, they'll be like, "Whoa, these people might be kind of really bad,"
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm processing that new take now.
No, that was a good take.
That Frank was going there maybe as a last thing.
I'm sorry, that was a bit ridiculous. Where he's like, "Hey, buddy, what's your name?" "Oh, Anthony. Oh, I could tell you're from Jersey. Come over and shake my hand." Like, really? Are you, as a prison guard, going to come shake a prisoner's hand?
Well, they love him. You got to think like they were wearing his costume. They're wearing his skull on his shirt. They think he's like. Fair. I don't know.
I still thought it was a bit like
they asked him to join them.
He should have said.
They were like,
why didn't he say
we
yes
adore
and then
you,
kill them
Frank.
all?
You are who we want to be.
I like
fair.
that he was like, you guys don't even understand. He's like, you guys don't even know me. You don't even understand my pain. You don't know why I'm even doing this. That was pretty good. I think they're kind of talking about like the people who wear the Punisher like logo as like an excuse to be excessive, when obviously the Punisher is excessive, you know, like obviously he's a brutal dude, you know. But yeah, guys, let's get into some questions just talking about, because this is the finale, the show's over. Do you guys, does anybody here personally think this is the best MCU Disney Plus show thus far? Any of you guys think that?
I'd say
Like about
It's up there. The good
Of
ones
all
are so
time?
different.
Disney
Or
Plus, though.
recently.
Disney Plus. So you got Loki, WandaVision.
I put it as second behind Loki. I think Loki's my favorite.
Really,
But
Wade?
we also did 2 seasons of it, and it's much more sci-fi, which is a lot more.
That's
what,
more up
what
your
I what
alley.
I tend to
Yeah,
move
it's so
to,
hard to
so.
compare something like Loki and Daredevil. I mean,
And like,
they're not the
WandaVision
same,
was
you
kinda
know,
fun,
and they're
too.
both excellent. And WandaVision,
No.
you know what I mean? And Moon Knight's off in its own corner where they're all
we
doing
loved
their
Moon
own
Knight
thing.
on the pod, but nobody
you
else
know-
likes Moon Knight.
I
don't know
love
why.
Moon Knight. Moon Knight was my favorite show until this one came out.
Nice.
There you go.
How does it compare to the original show? How you guys feeling? John was a little bit negative last week. He was not feeling it. He was scared to give his opinion.
It doesn't compare really. I mean, the depth of the Netflix Daredevil is kind of unmatched, you know, with the action and the gravitas and all the situations. They're much more developed, but obviously that we talked about this. They've had plenty more. They had more episodes and longer run times to really flesh out a whole lot of stuff. But I think for what this is, they did a really good job of, you know.
It feels like an MCU version of. It feels like an MCU version of the Daredevil show. You know what I mean? Like they MCU-ified it. It is a little less deep. Like I've been watching the first season of Daredevil, the show, and I'm like, man, the crime stuff is really intricate and it's very well thought out. And this was a little bit more surface level for me, you know, which is fine. We only have 9 episodes. We don't have like 13-hour-long episodes. I don't know.
And on top of that, this was stitched together from 2 different creative teams.
True.
Who both got to film stuff, and it's stitched together from those. So maybe season 2 will
be more.
And I agree with you guys. I felt the absence of some of the depth in the writing, but it didn't really bother me because it was a bit more of a fast-paced show. I mean, the old Daredevil show had time for characters to sit down in their apartments and talk for like 20-minute scenes.
True.
You know, that was just a different pace show altogether. The DNA of the show was different. You know, Matt would sit under the church with his mom and talk to her for, I think, like a 20-minute scene, literally. And that's half of an episode here. So the pace is so different that, I'm not faulting it for not being as deep because there's not much of an opportunity.
Yeah. Dad, how do you feel like it compares? You've watched the whole Defender series, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I went through all of it. I don't know, 2 years ago, and you guys touched on it all. I don't disagree with any of your takes on that. I will say this: when the first episode came out, and they started right in, right, and they completely shattered Nelson Page and Murdoch, and then they go into the. What do they call it, Jacob, when they do like the initial credits and they're rolling the scenery?
The intro.
The intro?
Yeah.
Man, you know, they show the Daredevil and then all of his world is crumbling. It was rock solid for him. The church, Lady Liberty, the Lady of Justice.
Yeah.
Nelson Page and Murdoch, everything crumbling. And then from the rocks, you know, Daredevil comes back and is rebuilt. I was like, oh man, that was awesome, right? And so it's just that pulled me in right off the bat, and watching him, you know, basically pick himself up from basically despair, right? I mean, let's face where he was, and become back to who he is. It's going to be great, and he's there now. and the next 9 episodes, I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah. I think it took this season to kind of make sense of all of the MCU stuff, like Kingpin being in Hawkeye, Kingpin being in Echo, Daredevil being in Echo. They kind of had to make some things make sense, and maybe it just took this one season of less deepness, but somehow trying to explain all of this and building up a new story. I think that's maybe what it took. How do you guys feel about the future of street level Marvel? Obviously, Wade, you're a more cosmic guy. Do you think the street level Marvel is going to continue at all? Obviously, we're getting a second season, but
I mean, maybe. Let's get Sam's take. I'm curious.
Sam, how do you feel?
I'm really excited. I mean, some of my favorite Marvel comics that I own are like the ground level, smaller Spider-Man stories and Daredevil stories. But that's just the kicker, is if they're not able to work Spider-Man into more of the street level stuff, I think it's never going to be up to the full potential that it could be, because he's like the main, ground level hero you have.
Yeah.
And if they're not able to sprinkle him into different things, then it's going to be hard. I mean, obviously you have people like Daredevil, and you've got the Defenders, and you've got Moon Knight, who are pretty much ground level heroes, but it's going to be hard without Spider-Man. And it's even like, you've even got like the Thunderbolts who are there, but it'll be until they're able to, I don't know if it takes, buying Sony for Disney just so they can own Spider-Man again officially. I don't know if that's what it has to be, but I think until they're officially able to like use Spider-Man freely whenever they feel like it, I think it's just not going to be as good as some of the more like cosmic level events that they're coming up with.
Sony's never going to sell Marvel. They made too much money off of Kraven the Hunter and Morbius, So.
Yeah.
So that's, a lot of people were like, man, this is crazy, because like Thunderbolts comes out May 2nd and Kingpin is the mayor of New York.
Yeah.
And
so I'm wondering if it takes place before.
It takes place in New York.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I know Kingpin apparently can't show up in movies based off of his rights. There's some rights issues, but I hope they get the check. They get the check to whoever has the rights and say, "Hey, you know what? We want him in Thunderbolts." That'd be so funny. Could you imagine just Kingpin saying, "We will protect the city. we will
put together a team.
I put together a team to stop Sentry." That'd be funny if he took credit for the Thunderbolts. That would be kind of funny. Because you know how he took credit for killing Muse, right? The police? That would be kind of funny.
Yeah, except he's against vigilantes.
Yeah, true.
But they would...
Thunderbolts are government sanctioned because they all work for the CIA.
Oh, there you go.
Or at least a couple of them. A couple of them work for Val already.
Yeah. Man, guys, anything that I've missed from the show? Anything that stood out to you guys before we head out of here?
I was just gonna say, when we were watching the finale last night, Keith had the funniest response to the end of the finale. He was like, I asked him, I was like, what do you think about it? And he's like, it's pretty good. He's like, but I think I just figured out how they can stop Kingpin. And I was like, what? And he's like, they can just call Thor over, and Thor can just be like, oh, you need me to go take him out? Okay, sounds good. And I was like, yeah, I guess that's kind of
That is kind of a plot hole with you have all these massively powerful superheroes that would be like, yeah, that's obviously wrong. Let's go stop him. Like, take 2 seconds.
The thing is, I don't think a lot of people know, since he has all these people in cages underneath the ground. I don't think anyone knows he's even doing this. So from the outside, he looks like actually a good mayor. The only people that know are Matt, and like Matt doesn't know Thor.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and Matt's like almost to Matt's like own flaw. Like, he's not involved with the Avengers whatsoever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Probably doesn't want to be. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't even know if they know who he is. I know they say like the devil of Hell's Kitchen a lot, I guess, like on the news, but I don't know. Interesting. Jake, any final thoughts on the show as a whole?
Awesome. It was just great to be back. And it was great to have the best of both worlds. It was in the MCU. It felt very current. It felt like it mattered in terms of, things. I'm keeping up with the MCU. I'm watching it. This feels important, but it was true to what it used to be. as close as it could be. It really walked in both worlds, and I'm okay if it keeps on walking towards the MCU a little more now. But they had a bridge, which was really important.
Yeah. Do you guys have any thoughts for season 2? What could happen? Some sort of all-out war. Some sort of Defenders thing.
The real question is, do we need Luke Cage back?
I told you guys, I love Luke Cage. That was a great show. The second season is phenomenal TV. I'll tell you. I
can't bring Cottonmouth back because he's Blade now.
But he's also dead.
Oh yeah, Cottonmouth's dead.
Spoiler for the show.